Alright, I'm back with another Destiny 2 video ahead of what we think could be a community event starting tomorrow, but this is a more, I don't know, I don't want to say complaining, but I feel like we're in a not great situation with the game right now. This is inspired by the Rick Kakis video that I saw, who he turned me on to the fact that we are now at the lowest Steam player counts that the game has ever seen. It's something like 60,000 over the past week on average, which is at least 10,000 below even past lulls before like the Witch Queen, or like back, even way back, like when Season of the Worthy was very bad and dead. So this is the lowest it's ever been. Granted, there's a lot of competition. It's, Prime release season, Modern Warfare 2, Overwatch 2, and granted, Destiny 2 is a 5-year-old game at this point, and things cannot kind of stay elevated forever. But what I find curious about this is the fact that content volume, I would say, has never been higher. Like, Bungie at this point has gotten producing content for a season sort of down to a science. And that's like good and bad. It's good because it means they are able to get a lot of content, like a total amount of content out consistently every season. This season, we have a reprised raid. We have, there's another subclass update. There are expeditions. There are catch crashes. There are pirate lord hideouts, even though they're repurposed lost sectors. There are story beats. There are cutscenes. Like, there is a lot of actual stuff. Like, there's 20 plus new weapons a season, or reprised weapons, or whatever, exotics, exotic armor, etc., etc., etc. Like, the sheer scope of what they're doing every season now is impressive. But this does not change the fundamental fact that people are burning out in the game, and it doesn't feel like stuff that we really want to play at any given time, at least not past the maybe first couple weeks of the season. I think Ascendant Nomad said it the best when I published an article about this earlier, where he's just like, I'm bored. We're all just bored. And I think that's what it comes down to. There is all of this stuff to do, but there does not really feel like a compelling reason to do it. And I think Destiny's main problem right now is its reward loop, like its long-term progression systems. And like, these are all disparate points I've written about in the past, but it kind of all comes together into one big thing where, like, they really, we can produce a lot of seasonal content now. However, they have not really figured out how to motivate people to chase it and to not make it feel like an overly exhausting grind, which I would argue almost everything feels like now. I think we've talked to death, like, about power level at this point. I don't think anyone has any real respect for the concept of power level continuing on how it is, with the resetting artifact power and like needing to bounty stack to get back up to GM level like every single season. Bungie's already said they're going to be doing some experiments with power level in the future, but I think that is just one aspect of the grind that has worn people out for a while now, but they haven't really meaningfully changed it in any capacity. It's just kind of the same thing. So that is not yet fixed. I do not think it is a coincidence that a lot of this burnout and complaining happens when crafting was introduced. I think crafting creates two different scenarios, both of which are bad for different reasons. The grind to get red border weapons has been a huge point of contention for players pretty much since it was introduced. Like, you're pretty much not getting any from various sources quickly enough, and a lot of people feel like they are playing Destiny a lot, maybe not as much as me or content creators or people like that, but they are playing a lot, and they're like disappointed that they don't have yet have a red frame. But on the other end of this, you have people who do play a ton and realize that once you get a crafted copy of a weapon, it's game over. Like, there was no point in ever getting another copy of that weapon again. And some people think this is better because you don't have to chase 5 out of 5 rolls endlessly. And yet, like, I don't know, even this season alone, I'm finding myself like, okay, I have a crafted copy of this with enhanced perks. But like the playlist weapons that now have like 2 and 3 perks in each column, I find those kind of more interesting and fun to get. And I think Destiny has kind of lost something in the loot chase with this system. In terms of other long-term pursuits, things like titles. I think titles are usually overly grindy. We have people, like, I can't tell you how many people on my feed are like, oh my god, I gotta do 20 more things, lost sectors, and get 15,000 more candy before tomorrow to get the gilded Ghost Rider seal. I'm like, I did that a week ago, but like, yes, it was exhausting. Uh, I don't think titles are a very good system right now because you can only display one of them at a time. There's not really a lifetime achievement thing set up where you can easily see kind of the grand total of titles people have. You really have to like just have people posting on Twitter about like, here's all my seals. I think titles can feel like a chore where it's like, okay, well, I can't miss a season because I need to get Gilded Conqueror every season. Because if I miss one season, I'm going to miss that number. And then I want like stuff like that. Triumph hunting is always been kind of boring, but like it's been even worse, I think, this season, especially because of just some of the sheer ridiculousness of a few of these triumphs, like the 200 whatever champions and expedition thing. I think in terms of structuring events, I think Bungie has not really gone about doing that great. Festival of the Lost, for instance, requires you to get pages for the Haunted Lost sectors, like to run just, I don't know, 2 or 3 playlist activities per run of the Haunted Lost sector, or do 4 or 5 heroic public events, like things that have not fundamentally changed in years and years and years now. The core playlist activities, as we are getting new seasonal content, the core playlist activities are almost not changing at all, almost never. The rare exception is like they added some of the battlegrounds to the Vanguard playlist, but I'm almost at a point where like I think just doing nothing for a season, like doing no seasonal activity, no little check the columns of boxes things, none of that, skip that whole thing, and they just only made Crucible and Gambit maps for a full season. That was all of the content. I think that would almost do wonders to help the game at this point, because even with all the... I think they are too front-loaded on like easy PvE content for the most part. Like all of the stuff they are producing pretty much is in service of this seasonal model. Here's the seasonal activity, grind the seasonal activity to get these 6 weapons, to check all these boxes, get this title, and that is like 85% of every season. Whereas we get one new Crucible map every 3 years and, you know, one new mode every season or 2. Gambit literally gets nothing ever for any reason. Gambit gets balance patches, if that, and that's really it. I think there's a lot of stuff lacking in that area. But I talked about this before, where I think there's a serious lack of long-term investment in your character that feels meaningful. Power doesn't do it. I would argue just amassing a vault full of weapons doesn't really do it. I think weapon sunsetting was a kind of ham-handed way of trying to fix that problem, where it's like, okay, you don't have this huge pile of weapons, you only have this many weapons, so you're motivated to keep getting new weapons. That backfired, and that was not like a good way to go about doing it. But like other games in this genre have things like a Paragon system, where you have max level characters, but you keep over leveling them for small bonuses or bonus caches and things like that. Whereas all you have in Destiny is like, if you over level the season pass, you will get a bunch of worthless bright engrams, and that's it. And temporary power that will go away at the end of the season. There is no real equivalent to that. I have argued that something like a trophy room, an apartment interior, a ship interior, something that is some sort of a grand collection of all your Destiny achievements throughout history, would be something that players might be more prone to invest in if it translated into some sort of tangible thing you could show off, either to other players or online or whatever. We don't have anything like that. You can show off your seals screen and a picture of your vault, I don't know, like in your one fashion look at a time, but there is nothing fundamentally like that. Just the core loop is not really working. I don't think it's working for casual players. I don't think it is working for hardcore players. And it has created a system where they are producing a truly impressive like amount of stuff, a large volume of stuff every season, but they have not figured out a proper way to motivate people to want to keep playing it, because it gets very stale very quickly, and too many things end up cycling back to, well, go run some public events to do this thing, or complete this step, or go run some Madguard strikes, and things don't really fundamentally change. And the rewards are, the best rewards they usually come up with are, you know, just a new legendary weapon or two, or something that's reprised that could be it's either like power crept, so it's like derailing all your old stuff when suddenly you have a bolt shot sidearm that is better than Risk Runner, essentially, or they're just barely noticeable. So I think you need something above and beyond the current reward structure the game offers, because it is just not really fulfilling its purpose in motivating people to play. And I don't know what the answer is here. I think Bungie is happy that they kind of have this down to a science, that they can produce all this content this quickly, that they are hitting like their goals for, shipping this thing at X date. I think the cracks are kind of showing a little bit because we have so many like bugs that launch with each season, and many of them take like half the season to fix. Like plenty of exotics will be disabled for half a season, or some sort of reward thing we're supposed to be getting is like not paying out the way it should be. Things like that. This just keeps happening kind of season after season, and it feels like we need a break in structure. We need a break in structure, and we need kind of a revamp of rewards and player motivation. I think that is one of the core issues right now, where it's not just like this, this new balance patch will make PvP more interesting, or this new seasonal activity will make PvE more interesting. Like we're just getting the same stuff every season, and as good as it is, like I like the pirate theme, I like Catch Crash, like I like all of this stuff. It's just, it is not satisfying the kind of long-term goals of both, I think, Bungie and the player base. And I think we need something different, something to break up the monotony of seasons. Like, just because you put more stuff into a season doesn't change the core structure of how a season like plays and feels. And I do not think that has changed. I don't foresee any change really happening before Lightfall. Next season is set. I mean, we're a month away from it. Whatever they're going to do there is happening. I do not think it will be any meaningfully different than the current structure we have. Lightfall is pretty much set. That will be kind of, I guess, the Beyond Light model of an expansion mixed with some Witch Queen stuff. I am looking forward to playing around with Strand, I guess, but I'm really looking forward to the Legendary campaign, because I think the Legendary Witch Queen campaign is one of the most fun, compelling things I've done in Destiny for a long time, in terms of how it made me have creative loadouts. I didn't have to think about champions. It was the right balance of difficulty, where it was hard, but it wasn't like GM level annoying and exhausting. Like, that was good. So I'm looking forward to that in Lightfall. But from there, I do have to wonder how long the current exact seasonal model is sustainable with the way things currently work. And I don't think you can just pump out bigger and bigger seasonal activities and, sold separately dungeons, and then we're going to reprise Wrath of the Machine probably next year. I think we're going to see these declines continue pretty sharply as this goes on. And this is maybe even an argument that, like, maybe they should just do a Destiny 3. Maybe the correct move is not to just do Destiny 2 for a generation and a half, because by its very nature, like, you were just dealing with so many kind of internal structural problems of like power creep and, just recycling the same stuff in the same locations and blah, blah, blah. Like, that, at this point, I think there is a certain amount of the player base that would be okay with just a clean slate, wiping things from scratch and starting over again. That was very controversial when we went from Destiny 1 to Destiny 2, but there was only 3 years in between those games, so it was, and now we're entering year 5, and we know years 6 through 8, I don't know, are coming for Destiny 2, and that alone kind of feels a little bit exhausting, given that, like, probably still going to be running the Inverted Spire in 2025 or 2026. Like, things like that are not changing, and I think that is part of the problem. This is a very, very multifaceted problem. I do not claim to have all the answers to this. I'm just trying to articulate the seemingly contradictory idea that Destiny has almost the most seasonal content it ever has had before, the most story put in there, the most, range of activities and things like that, and yet it feels not fun to engage with, at least not after the first month or so, which is not really what what you want to see out of a live game. And I think there are many, many explanations for that, some of which we've gone over, some of which I may be missing. So feel free to add your own in the comments. But that, I think, is the story here. I think the Steam numbers are a symptom of that. And I don't know if that's going to change based on next season here. We might see kind of further declines as people move away, and then there will be a spike with Lightfall. But we'll see where things go. I do think Bungie needs to kind of seriously look at engagement, retention, and all of the stuff and how it relates to the content they're producing. I do not think the content itself is the problem. I do not think they are making bad content. I think they are not providing enough motivation to engage with the content continuously. And I hope they can solve that. I, again, don't have the answer, but I think I can identify at least some sources of the problems and maybe some things that could change, but I guess we'll find out and see what they do. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I will talk to you soon.